I would be so much more inclined to give you freight if you asked that question. If I had an anime about logistics, it would be like there's a certain genre of anime that's just like the overworked like salary man. That is exactly what it would be, of like
Yes.
just like way too much stress. So like similar to Agretzko, if you've ever watched Agretzko, I haven't watched it. I know about it tangentially.
Yeah.
But it would be very much in that line of like way overworked, just like slamming coffee all the time. Like maybe put a Zen in, who knows, a little lipper.
Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Sales Dash CRM. They are one of the only CRMs built specifically for freight brokers and freight agents. Not only can you manage your shipper sales prospecting, you can also manage your carriers and the lanes they run directly in the CRM. Check out sales-crm.com, and thanks again for the sponsorship. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to the ThinkFreight Podcast. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Tommy Wardine. I'm excited to welcome back my friend, Chapa, Matthew. He is the logistics manager at Crunchyroll. Matthew, welcome back to the pod, man.
Thank you, Thomas Wardine of the ThinkFreight Podcast. I'm excited to be on there with you again. It's been a joy. A lot has happened since the last time I was on this podcast. Namely, I got a job, which was really big news for me. I was very excited to start getting paid again. Hell
yeah! You did snag a new job? You're working again. You're fully employed. You're a member of society again.
Yes.
I'm technically still not. I guess I'm just doing my own. Like I tell people I have like this career in podcasting and newsletters, but we'll see. We'll see how this goes. It's still going pretty well so far. So we'll see if we keep rocking and rolling this way, right?
You'll be fine. You're making ends meet. That's what's important.
Yeah, exactly. We have people that are happy. Dude, we're both in Texas. It's been an extremely hot summer. You were in Austin before.
Yes.
In the last pod. You're now in Dallas.
Yes.
You made the move northward. Yeah. How's that been?
The concrete jungle has taken me into its warm, very warm bosom. It has been great. It's great to be here fully now because my kids are at school. That's the main reason why we moved, because the Austin housing market has absolutely tanked, and I'm not getting the price that I want on my house, so it's still on the market, which is fun. But I've been commuting from Dallas to Austin every week since March. I have very, very nice in-laws, and I have been staying with them at their house since March. It's great. It's lots of fun. I feel like I'm back in high school. My boss makes fun of me. She's like, do y'all do they make dinner for you? Do they ask where you're at? I'm like, yeah, they do. We have dinner on occasion. It's lots of fun.
That's so funny.
Yes.
You're basically being bullied at work, and that's so funny.
Yep.
In a good way.
I would wake up early and go work out, and I'd stay late at work, which is great. And then I would go eat dinner by myself and go to sleep. Do it all over again for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's lots of fun.
Oh man. Yeah, that doesn't sound It sounds
It is what And then I would drive 6 hours a week. So I'd come up on Monday night. I'd be in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I would drive back home Thursday night. So another 3 hours at night. There are now 2 Buc-ee's on 35 up here. So there's a Buc-ee's in Hillsboro. There's a Buc-ee's in Temple. I would on occasion hit both of them, at different, for different needs, right? Maybe restroom at one, coffee at the other, paddle tail somewhere involved in there. I'm not entirely sure. Who knows? Whatever Matt's feeling on that particular 3-hour drive. It's great. It's a great time. Really enjoyed that stretch of 35.
Yeah, I don't miss commuting at all. I'm sure you don't anymore either. At least that far. That has to suck. Where are you at in the DFW Metroplex?
I am, because as we were discussing prior to you hitting record, unlike Houston, everything up here is its own tiny little small town. So if you're from Houston or the Woodlands or Katy or Sugarland, Pearland, no, you're just from Houston. That's where
Yep.
you're from. Just don't church it up. You're from where you're from. Up here, though, I am living in Grapevine, which is just north of the DFW airport.
Yep.
And I work in Capel, which is right next to it.
Yeah, nice. So you're situated really nicely. You basically took that commute and said, I'm not doing this at all. And you're like 15 minutes away from work and just across the cities. And yeah, that's the right way to do it. You're a typical DFW person now.
Yes. Yeah. I again, warm bosom has just fully enveloped me.
So let's dive into your new role at Crunchyroll, because like you said, since the last time you were here, you were fully gainfully employed. You joined Crunchyroll several months ago now. How's that transition been? Like, how have you been liking it so far? What's the culture like? Are you having fun?
It's great. So as I have found out now that I work at an anime company, logistics as an industry is just full of nerds. Just like lots of geeks, lots of nerds who will play D&D and Warhammer 40K, watch anime, do all of the things. So a lot of my followers now, 3,000 plus followers on LinkedIn.
Let's go.
We're all very excited for me. Thank you. We're very excited for me to work at Crunchyroll. And then most of them proceeded to ask me for discounts on merch and product and stuff. So working here is kind of a life's dream, although it wasn't ever my dream, but it's really awesome.
Yeah.
I personally have been watching anime since like the first grade, probably like watching stuff I wasn't really supposed to be watching, but I was totally watching it. So that was like being an anime fan in the 90s was way more difficult than it is now. And so, you had Toonami. That was it. That was what you were watching. And like, in Toonami's favor, they were great. They did a really fantastic job. And so I did that. So getting to work at Crunchyroll has been a joy. The culture here is exactly as you'd imagine. Like, we all love anime. Most of us love anime. My boss does not, although she's worked at this company for like 20 years. And in my interview process with her, I was like, I love anime and whatever. And she's like, oh, I it's fine. I just not my cup of tea. So there's certain green flags in like the interview process, right? You don't know this because you're your own boss, but when you're interviewing, there's things that like tell you like, man, like this, I want to work for this human being. Typically, it's like, wow, they're way smarter than me. I want to work for them. That's sort of my like normal green flag. In this instance, it was like, man, if you don't care about the thing that you're selling, but you've been there a long time, like that's a huge green flag for me. That like you like logistics operations, like you're down for it. So so that was big green flag. Everyone else though, the company loves anime, and it's cool to kind of see the behind the scenes stuff that most people don't see between like the various owners of the IP, because there's lots of like hands in the cookie jar, and we're all trying to like make profit off of this, and some feathers get ruffled,
right?
But it's very interesting, and it's a lot of fun to be here. And my desk has a lot of new figures on it. It's great.
I love that, man. I love that. Yeah, I've been an anime fan. I started watching anime in the early 2000s ish. I was like maybe 9 or 10. No, I was probably 8 or 9. And at that time, it was Pokemon. That was kind of the thing that had come out.
Great show.
Yeah, and then so that morphed into like watching Yu-Gi-Oh, like a bunch of the other shows. Just kind of diving in from there. And I won't lie, I kind of glossed my anime nerdhood for like 10 years or so. And during the pandemic, I kind of refound that. And have like really like thrown myself more into my nerdship over the last 3 or 4 years.
I know we were talking on LinkedIn about how much you love Black Butler. Like, yeah, of course you do.
Yeah.
That tracks.
Listen, it's one of my girlfriend's favorite shows, and I've watched a good chunk of them with her, and I won't say it's not a bad show. It's very good. I got locked into watching it by accident, and I've watched almost all of them now, so it's good.
If you're ever so lucky as to look at my watch list, you would see some really strange stuff in there. We won't discuss it because that's not who I'm going to be on this podcast. But yeah, that's a thing.
Hey, well, we can discuss that off podcast. We won't do that on podcast. How's that sound?
Yeah, I have when people are like, "Well, what's your favorite anime?" I have my mainstream I like Evangelion.
Yeah,
everyone likes Evangelion. But there are other ones I'm like, I really like this other really weird one.
There's some good ones. There's a lot of weird ones that are out there, and honestly, some of those weird ones can slap. Honestly,
they do.
I didn't mean to drop an F-bomb in there, but I forgot. It's Friday and I'm tired. I was like, screw it.
I've been trying to keep it PG on the ThinkFreight podcast because I appreciate this publication and all that it does for the world of freight. So I will not be using expletives here. I will keep it family friendly.
I'm glad you're keeping it family friendly. I will bleep that in the editing process. I will make my editor, who is me, do that. I will put a timestamp in my note at the 10-minute mark. 10-minute mark. Bleep F word. There we go. So let me ask you. So some people may be out there asking who don't know what Crunchyroll does aside from they have a platform that hosts anime and things like that. But what kind of, if people are out there listening, they're like, hey, what kind of freight does an anime company have? What kind of things do you guys move? And are you guys handling it or do you handle things from the import export all the way through the final mile, or are you only handling more of the domestic side of things?
I feel like, so listeners of the ThinkFreight podcast, Thomas or Dean on the ThinkFreight podcast, what he's asking here is the question that I've put up recently on my own personal LinkedIn.
You did.
Which you should follow. I'm a solid follow on Matthew Chapa on LinkedIn. Come join the following. We're over 3,000 strong now.
3,000 Matthew Chapa strong. Link will be in the comments or in the podcast description.
To now include my boss, who is a follower now. It was very awkward when that happened for me. It was like, I might need to change my content up a little bit. But
absolutely not. We blocked the boss.
So, what was I going to say? So, I get asked that specific question by a freight broker at least once a week on average. What do you do? What's an anime company do? An SVOD company? What freight do you have? And then I tell them, well, we have a very large e-commerce store. We sell manga, which is like a comic book. We sell Blu-rays, and we sell figures. The most expensive thing we've sold is a $15,000 1-to-1 scale All Might bust. It comes in 3 large boxes, and you will get a freight delivery on that $15,000 item. But we sell all that all the way down to a $3 collectible pin, which is not really collectible, like an enamel pin. We sell wide breadth of things. Now the next, so that's what every freight broker asks me, and then they will immediately follow that up after I respond and then show them the website. They will immediately respond with, well, is there any freight that I can move for you? No, there's not. As a matter of fact, I have existing relationships. I'm good. Thank you very much. And I will not respond to your DMs anymore. So anyways, to answer your question, what do we do? What do I do in this murky world? So
very shady what you guys are doing over there, moving anime figurines across the country. This seems very, very shady, Matthew.
There are figures that we have that are very expensive that I would not feel comfortable having around my small children. But whatever floats your boat. Maybe Mr. Thomas Ordine of the ThinkFreight Podcast might get one at some point in time. His girlfriend might enjoy it.
Listen,
although I know that Black Butler doesn't have that type of thing.
I enjoy figurines. I have many an anime figurine and Funko Pops in my house, and it's loaded. I'm sorry, we became addicted somehow. In addition to figurines, and let me tell you this: I have been to many a convention. And there are lots of figurines that I have seen that I would not feel comfortable owning. Like, just because they are so dang fragile, expensive, amazing, that I know my clumsy ass, I know my dog's clumsy ass, I know my girlfriend's clumsy ass. It is getting broken in the home of the ThinkFreight podcast, and I will cry.
We sold a $6,000 statue, 1-to-1 scale statue of a of a female character who is as proportionate as you would assume, right?
Yeah.
Being an anime fan, you
Yep.
know where I'm going with this. And the packaging on that, even though again it was coming on a pallet, it was shipping in freight. It The packaging on it was absolutely terrible and just got destroyed. She had these really ornate wings that were there was a void between her body and the wings, and they just got like crushed. And so, and then like joy of all joys, the main one that we were first notified about was in
Yeah.
Canada. So I had not only had to like export it across the border into Canada, I had to then bring it back to go like, what the hell happened here?
Right.
What are we like? What's going on? Who owes us money now? Because clearly it's not my fault that this broke. So yeah, it was bad packaging. So to answer all your questions that you asked previously that I've skirted around, we purchase and distribute anime content in the West, and then we license merchandise based off of those IP titles. So we Crunchyroll actually has a media arm where they work with and produce Blu-ray films. So we have a whole team here actually in the office that I'm working at who design the actual boxes for the Blu-rays.
Cool.
They'll do all of the like inserts and stuff like that. And then we work with another company to actually get them the physical Blu-rays made. We sell that stuff. We produce most of that here in the U.S. We purchase figures from companies. So there are large companies that purchase and make figurines. So we work with them. We work with Funko. We work with Nendroid. We work with a bunch of other of those types of people. We are also learning that there are a lot, and then the other thing, kind of main thing that we do, we purchase manga from, so like comic books, light novels, those types of things from different publishers. So Simon and Schuster,
Yeah.
Penguin, Random House, those types, those get made and then brought to us. Where we are seeing a lot of interesting stuff is, excuse me, have your editor edit out my coughing. We are finding a lot of interest in apparel now. So where we have a hot IP, people want to be associated with it, and we are producing merchandise, specifically apparel, with those characters that people want on them.
Yeah.
And then really interesting, we are seeing within that a subcategory of people who are music artists, recording artists, and when we like collab with them, there's like this huge like net effect of like, this is even bigger than we thought it was going to be. So most recently for I know that you go to conventions.
Yeah.
You probably didn't go to Anime Expo in LA this year. We did a huge collab with Logic, the rapper.
Yeah. Love Logic.
Where we so we had Logic, and then we actually produced new pictures of him with him as like part of the crew of Cowboy Bebop. So cool. Put on a shirt, put on a skate deck, and just like sold out like so quickly, both at the convention and then online. And so those types of things we're seeing like, oh, this is where the market wants us to be, and we're going to fill that void. Since there's really no like, we as a company, Crunchyroll takes this really interesting focus on fans as a whole, which is really interesting, and developing that relationship between fans and the media that they like. And we find like, you want to be associated with anime, you want to be a part of this, and this culture we're happy to be in and help form. And so that's part of what I'm doing is, helping form that culture. And we have this, the execs, as we were discussing, right, that get paid
Yeah.
multiples of my salary. They thought up this great idea of like the flywheel, such that every part of it is increasing that like fan relationship with the content. So it's been really interesting to kind of be a very, very small cog in that, although important, small but important cog in that whole flywheel.
Arguably the most important piece of that cog.
I would say
flywheel,
so.
But
right.
I say so, and I run the ThinkFreight podcast. I'm Thomas Werdine, so I'm saying that, and I think that's a pretty big notion, pretty big award that I'm giving to you here, saying you are the most important cog of that ship there.
I appreciate it. It reminds me of a time many years ago when I was in college, when Michael Crabtree was still in college, which will tell you how old I am. And he had a really great YouTube video. Yes, proposing himself for Heisman. And he was like, you know what? Like, my quarterback's amazing, but let me just tell you, if there's no one there to like take that ball out of the air, we don't get points. No one scores a touchdown. That's me, right? So that's who I am, right? If people are going to order, then someone's got to get it to them. That's me. Like, am I the quarterback of this company? I don't know. It is a possibility.
I think. Listen, people are saying it. Matthew's not saying it, but people are saying it. It's going around.
In our combined 13,000 LinkedIn followers,
people are saying it. There's a few people saying it.
Someone is saying it. I'm sure, without a doubt.
I think it's cool that you guys, listen to your customers and find those different avenues that, people do want, some of those products and those services and that memorabilia, right? Like you were saying, to more merch, more shirts and things like that. And I can attest to that. My girlfriend is someone who's a big shirt collector. And over the past couple of years, there's been an explosion with seeing more of her favorite shirts that she can buy, and just be able to wear out. I'm seeing a lot more of it just, out and about too, because we live in such a big hub here in Houston of nerds that there's I just go to the local Target and there's 4 people wearing an anime shirt. And
let me tell you, you are about 10 years younger of an anime nerd than I am. And so as the gray-haired, OP sensei, I will tell you, it was so much harder to be an anime fan when I started than you youngins had it. You don't even know. Like, you don't know the seedy places that we had to go in, like, downtown Houston to find the one anime shop that you could buy stuff that was imported from Japan, and you could get the keychains, get all the stuff. You could get VHS dubbed in English. It was amazing. And like this, again, seedy back alley anime shop that who knows what the rent on this place was like. But like, again, being way too young to go into those stores. My dad was like, sure, I like this, so we're going to go. And my sweet mom had no idea that we were doing that.
Love that.
It's great. Dad, weekends with dad were very interesting. The joys of a divorced parents. You're like, well, what'd you do? And your dad's like, don't tell mom all that we did. She doesn't need to know. Okay, cool, dad. When I remember when Best Buy started having an anime section, right? You get one block and man, you better hope there's something good there. And you were risking a solid $20 on is this show going to be good? Yep. Are they going to actually make all the DVDs for this thing that I like? Am I going to be able to come back here? And there was, I vividly remember there was one series that I took a gamble on, and man, it hit. It was so good. And then I was able to get all of the Blu-ray, all of the DVDs. And now we're actually we are re-releasing it on Blu-ray as a full collector's edition. I'm
hell yeah.
So it's called Planets. If you ever,
nice.
Yeah, it's a great.
I've heard of it.
So yeah. It's nice. It's like Slice of Life. It's so good. Highly recommend. Such a good show. take the risk.
I
We
love
don't
it.
stream it, unfortunately, but it's great. So yeah, like anime fans now, like you have it so good. You don't know how good you have it. You've got these huge conventions. You've got huge like people who are like really into it. And like it used to be like, oh, like that weird kid in the corner who's wearing the like flames shirt.
Right.
He likes anime. You shouldn't like that. Like, yeah, that was who I was. Like deep internally, that's who I am.
Yeah.
So you hit
No,
it well.
dude, I love that. It's, what I think is interesting, even coming from like the early 2000s generation of like anime fan, it was still a lot easier then than I'm sure it was in the 90s to be able to find the anime. Like, I remember just being able to turn on, the TV and there was a couple of animes on. So like, I've never had the struggle of like having to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I come from like a really small town. Like, I mean, small
Yeah.
in the regards of like 20,000 people, and I was 45 minutes from Chicago. So it's it's not really like I couldn't have gotten there, but like my family wasn't like super into it. Like I was kind of the only like I was kind of the outcast of the family in my immediate family of like, yeah, I'm like the only like nerd. My neighbor was a super big nerd, so like we could nerd out together, but so like once he was like old enough to drive, he was a couple years older than me, so like once he could drive, we started to like explore around the other cities and like go find all the like shit we weren't supposed to get into. I need to edit that out too now. 25-minute mark.
With the cursing. Thomas Wardane of the ThinkFreight Podcast. This is a family podcast. Um, yeah. So you came up in a very interesting time of
Yeah.
anime culture where like fan subs were a thing, and like
Yeah.
man, those were like hit or miss. You might have someone who subbed it well, and like
Yep.
they got wild with subtitles on some of those fan subs. Yeah, what a nostalgic time when like man, Bleach was coming out then. Uh, it's wild feeling like man, I'm a like super old anime nerd. Ugh, gross, I'm gonna die soon. But like telling people here like, oh, you used to like it was. I was like, man, things were great when the internet happened, and you
Yeah.
could like buy bootleg copies of full seasons on eBay
Yep.
from some dude who downloaded a fan sub, or you could stream fan subbing was wild. So yeah, like that was the Wild West time. It was such a
Oh
like
yeah.
unique time to be an anime fan where you could just like download something. Maybe it's a virus. Maybe it's something else illegal that you shouldn't be watching.
Listen,
Who knows? Maybe it's what you actually wanted.
it was either something you wanted, something you didn't want, a virus, or Bill Clinton saying, "My fellow Americans, I did not have sexual relations."
Yeah,
That was a good time.
yeah. What a great time to be alive. And
Yes.
then everything kind of coalesced around Crunchyroll, who used to be a fan sub website, and
Yeah.
they found religion, which is great for them, great for us, great for me that I get to work here now. So yeah, it's kind of wild. Like being a part of it now is pretty insane. Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's got to feel insane. I want to ask you because you mentioned a couple minutes ago, well, probably like 15 minutes ago at this point, but I still haven't forgotten. You had mentioned like brokers reach out to you all the time, trying to move your freight. In your DMs, they call you.
all the
I'm
time.
sure. I'm sure there's going to be new animes asking Matthew for his freight in the next few months. Um, how many sales calls or emails do you think that you might get? And this does not include LinkedIn, just like cold calls and actual emails. Do you get like maybe on a day-to-day or like a weekly basis?
You asked me this.
Last time.
I feel like last time.
Yeah, and I'm
And
only asking you again because I remember what you said last time, and when you were at like Kendra and when you were at other places, it was like a few a week, 5 to 10 a week. But I'm sure that because of the market we have now and just the saturation of brokers and capacity, that number is probably a couple more.
I I have lost count, but it is as my personal profile. As I mentioned, I now have 3,000 LinkedIn followers, which is
3,000.
just significant
That's huge.
in the broader logistics community. I probably get some solicitation of some sort at least 10 times a week,
Mm,
if not more.
yeah.
Again, all of them go directly to my trash can. Like I don't, I I wish that I could give freight to everyone. I can't. I don't have a whole lot of it to give. Most of my volume comes delivered, like part of the cost of the PO. I don't have enough freight to go around. Um, and as you know, because you are one of my 3,000 strong followers on LinkedIn, Mr. Thomas Wardeen of the fantastic ThinkFreight Podcast, um, I get some weird, really weird solicitations. Um, I get some really good ones too. Honestly, as full transparency,
Yeah.
I got a broker, a female broker, told me, hey, like my boyfriend. I don't like anime, but my boyfriend does. He would love it if I could move your freight. Well done. Like that's a new
Yeah.
intro for me. Like I wish I could give you like you've moved to the front of the line. And then I got the best one I've ever gotten is that someone strangely, randomly left me a voicemail uh, singing like Backstreet Boys, like "I want your freight," I want it that way, to me on my freight on my voicemail. And because I like just said everything to voicemail, if I don't know your number, I listened to it. And I was like, "What in the hell is this?" The best part about it, clearly a new freight broker
Yeah.
did not leave their name or the company
Oh
they
God.
work for. So I was like, I don't know who you are. Posted on LinkedIn, and he actually found me. Thankfully enough, someone else was like called him out just straight up, like, "Oh, this is this guy. This is his. That's his deal. That's his mo."
Oh my
Um,
God.
yeah, so that was a really fun one. Those are like the two that really stick out in my mind. Are those two? I get a lot of canned emails. I get a lot of like misspellings, mispronunciations in my name. It's great. It's lots of fun. So yeah, I'm
That's
I'm certainly up from where I was before.
Dude, that's hilarious. He just got so excited that he was going to win Matthew Chapa's freight from Crunchyroll, logistics manager, head of the cog in the machine that runs the whole entire ship. He was excited. He was going to be getting hundreds of truckloads of anime figurines a day.
Yes.
And he thought, hey, listen, and Crunchyroll has this media arm, and they've got to be moving green screens around and cameras around, and maybe
Yeah.
people, and I can start bus transportation maybe, and truckload transportation, and LTL and FTL and parcel, and then he's just like, oh, I didn't leave my phone number. Great. I
He left
know,
his
and I know that. And I know that broker. I don't know who it was, but I guarantee you, he hung up the phone and said, "I didn't leave my phone number. Dang it!" Because I've done a really good sales call like that and botched the end and didn't leave my phone number or my name or something. And I was like, nailed it, didn't nail it.
the way that I like to picture it all going down, like literally any freight broker who somehow finds access to my email and or phone number, I like to think, and if I was better at you know media, like you are, Mr. Thomas Wardeen, and you're fantastic ThinkFreight Podcast, and you're honestly you're so much better at memes than I am, although I am trying.
We're catching up.
If I had a way, if I knew a way to do this, I would put like the Gambit meme where he's like, "Ooh, I'm about to make a name of myself here today." I feel like that's literally every freight broker when they get my email, like, "I'm gonna do it. I've been waiting for this so long. I'm gonna make a name for I'm gonna get Matt Chapa's freight." And like, no, you're not. It's not gonna go well for you. No, you're not. Sorry.
I can't lie. That's exactly how they feel because that's how I feel. That's how I used to feel. I'd get that email like, like it's buried. You can't find it on Zoom Info. You can't find it in Lucia. You can't find any of these tools. And all of a sudden you find it. Like a
Yeah.
Google search, some random thing. You gave it to someone on LinkedIn and didn't delete the post or didn't message them. And I found that obscure one, and I'm going to email you, and I'm getting every opportunity you ever had with my 15,000 non-existent trucks that I have across the U.S. delivering in your city every day, Matthew.
Yeah. I've worked so hard on this canned email. It's gonna like this is my home run.
I spent 7 minutes on this email 5 months ago. It is going to slap, and Matthew's giving me all of his freight.
Precisely. Yeah, that is exactly how that's how like, ooh, I'm gonna make a name for myself here today. Like, no, you're not. Not gonna happen. Yeah.
Oh,
great.
God.
This is great.
Let me ask you. So there's something kind of always top of mind in the industry right now, which is freight fraud, and you guys deal with so many different characters. I'll say.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever? I mean, is that and just to be more serious, is that ever like a thought that you guys have, or like a priority for Crunchyroll? Do you guys talk about like what is happening in that industry, in that side of the industry, and is that a factor for a shipper like you guys?
That that is a great question. Is it a thing that I care about? Yes. I've had double brokered loads before, so I know
Yeah.
I know that it's a thing. um, the way that try to insulate myself around it is by I use the carrier that I know, that I've
Yeah.
that I have a relationship with, that I'm trusted, and also I have investigated how they broker my load, and right, like my figures, typically when I'm moving freight is like an anime figure. They
Yeah.
tend to be very expensive loads, over $100,000 in a load. So I will investigate their security protocols and how they're doing things. And then on the other side, I work very closely with my vendors to get things like seals put on, photos of the load, BOLs, like as much security that I can put around moving that volume. I will. So I
Yeah.
do things like that, which is why you're not gonna get my volume. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen for you, because I just don't know you like that. But even with all of that in place, it still happens, unfortunately. It's not a great day when that happens. It's tough when something happens fraudulent or whatever. But yeah, sometimes you get a really good bad actor, and it just happens. So yeah, it's tough.
Now I know you don't have as much exposure to it just because you try to just work with the same provider or several providers. Is it ever a concern when you guys are making an order with a vendor, and that the vendor you guys are using to make an order, say like you guys are ordering figurines, or they're coming in from another vendor, potentially them not choosing the right kind of carrier, since they're the ones who are technically responsible for the freight in that aspect?
I mean, honestly, if I haven't if I haven't taken title, I don't care. Like that's the
Yeah,
worst answer, right? That you could possibly is like, if it's not mine, I don't care. Like when it
that's fair
becomes
though.
mine, then I care. Like if you lost it, like that's sad. I'm sad for you, but like you lost it. That's on you.
Right.
Um, and typically, we don't have a whole lot of that. And most of
Yeah.
the vendors that we're using are pretty big, pretty well known in the industry. And so it hasn't been an issue
Good.
that I've seen. But yeah, again, like if it's not mine, I don't care.
No, I trust me, I get that. And that's kind of the approach you have to take, because it's not your headache if someone else's, if your load gets, it's coming to you but gets lost or gets stolen. I mean, ultimately it's not really your problem. It's just
Yep.
if you figure it out and get me another shipment here. It
Yep.
is what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's unfortunate for us. We do a lot of things like pre-orders.
Yeah.
So we will like pre-sale items. We don't ever charge the customer when they pre-order, but we do have revenue expectations that are associated with those items coming in and
Yeah.
coming in full. So if there is a loss, then like we might lose some fictional money, some monopoly money on it all, but it's never it's less impactful because then we can just say like, hey, sorry, like
Sold
here's your
out.
money back or whatever.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. No, for sure. Matthew, before we wrap up, I got one more fun question for you. This isn't going to be more logistics; it's going to be more
Yeah.
kind of logistics themed.
Oh, more of
Um,
that? Fantastic.
yeah, exactly. If you could create your own logistics themed anime,
It would be the most boring anime you could make. But
no, it
okay.
wouldn't. This would be so. Listen, the global transportation is so immaculate and fun. It would be the number one Netflix or Crunchyroll anime ever.
Okay.
What would your maybe storyline or theme be coming, from your shipper anime perspective?
Okay. All right. That's a great question. That's a very unique one. I wish that I got more questions like that on my LinkedIn.
If I opened with a question like that, I would win all of your freight.
You would. I would be so much more inclined to give you freight if you asked that question. But now that you, Thomas Wardeen of the ThinkFreight Podcast, self-employed, man of media, you've asked it. Now
Yeah.
anyone else who asks it will just simply be derivative
Yeah.
of that. So if I had an anime about logistics, it would be like there's a certain genre of anime that's just like the overworked like salary man. That is exactly what it would be, of like
Yes.
just like way too much stress. So like similar to Agretzko, if you've ever watched Agretzko, I haven't watched it. I know about it tangentially.
Yeah.
But it would be very much in that line of like way overworked, just like slamming coffee all the time. Like maybe put a Zen in, who knows, a little lipper. Um, that would probably be like most closely. So if you've watched like Zom 100,
I have.
like
I've
the
seen that.
beginning, like the first episode of Zom 100 is just destroyed by the world. It would just be like 12 episodes of that. Like that's what it would be. Like I'm not saving the world. I'm just moving stuff. Like that's I'm either moving stuff around like in Excel or online, and like I think that it's way cool, but like one of the worst. So I've answered your question. I'm gonna move on to another one that you didn't
Yeah.
ask. One of the like worst experiences of my professional career was at Kendra Scott. Kendra herself had asked the warehouse like, "Hey, my son needs a summer job. Will you, take him in and employ him as like an intern?" And my boss, being the VP that she was, said, "Yes, of course, Kendra, we'd be happy to take your son in." And then she proceeded to schedule time with all of her direct reports, me being one of them. And so I had like 4 hours with this kid to explain to this high school, already multimillionaire trust fund child, like what I did and how much money I was making for his mom. And I was sort of explaining it as best I could and as like high level as I could. And I just looked over, and like I've never seen a more like glazed over, just like, oh God, like you do this for like, this is what your life is, from this high schooler. Like, cool, great, thank you, awesome. I'm gonna have a beer when I get home because this is how I pay my bills. I think it's cool, so you can shut up, and you're welcome that I make this money for you. Yeah, so that was a fun time. That's exactly how I feel all the time. But yeah, slice of life anime is a thing. Sure, maybe they'll talk about operations and supply chain at some point in time. Who knows? They do it over there. I know. I work with a lot of Japanese companies. I'm sure that they have freight forwarders there. I know them. It could be a thing. Who
Get
knows?
me in touch.
Slice of
Get me in
life.
touch with someone, Matthew. I am Thomas Wardeen of the ThinkFreight Podcast, founder and content creator. Please get me in
Extraordinaire.
touch.
You are so good at.
Extraordinaire.
You make so many good memes that I'm like, man, I wish I could do that one.
And you are the ultimate cog in the machine that moves Crunchyroll through the ethos that is
Yes.
the world, and you
The
have the
flywheel
pull.
effect is driven
It's
by
driven by
logistics.
Matthew. Yeah, and it's driven by Matthew Chapa, more importantly.
There you go. Yeah, global transportation manager. I'm moving stuff all over the world all the time.
All over, everywhere. Oh, dude, I had a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun
Awesome.
coming on. If people want to get in touch, if they want to buy some figurines, if they want to have a bad attempt at trying to move all of your freight, where can they reach you at? How can they find your LinkedIn profile that has over 3,000 followers on it now, where you
That's
post mac and cheese?
You just I knew you were going to throw that in. Where can you find me? You can find me on linkedin.com / was it linkedin.com/in/Matthew Chapa, or if you just like type into the search bar my name, Matthew Chapa, 2 T's 1 P, you will find me. There will be a breadth of things on there. I'm on Instagram as Low Budget Logistics. I'm also on LinkedIn. I've taken the Thomas Wardeen, the ThinkFreight Podcast queue, and I've made a second LinkedIn profile. This is like official. People don't know this. This is a scoop for the Thomas Redeem ThinkFreight Podcast. I am low budget logistics on LinkedIn. It's me. I'm talking to myself. It's great. People don't know that. It's the secret joy when my coworkers are like, "Oh, Matt, that's you. You're doing the same thing." Like, yeah, that's just me arguing with myself. It's great to increase my engagement.
It totally doesn't make me look crazy at all. Not at all.
No, I'm not psychotic whatsoever.
I don't talk to myself all day. Yeah, you talk to yourself, not me.
Yeah, I was driving again. I was driving back home from Dallas to Austin. Oh, man, I hope people listen to all of this podcast. You're getting some really good stuff here. And I was like stuck at construction because if you're on 35, there's construction. I was stuck in construction. I was like, wait, Thomas has he has two profiles. He's got the ThinkFreight Podcast. He's got his own. I should do that. I'm going to do I have low budget logistics at gmail.com. I'm going to make another one, and I'm going to just be a menace on LinkedIn. And I did. It was great. So I'm both of those. You can find me in either one of those. As I mentioned, I'm on Instagram, low budget logistics on Instagram. And I also have a YouTube channel, low budget logistics on YouTube. I have not made a full video in like months. It's been so hard to do all of it.
Matthew, when you accepted this role at Crunchyroll, you promised me one thing. You were not going to stop creating content for low budget logistics. And you know what happened? You were driving in a car all day, not creating content for low budget logistics, which is understandable. I
posted more shorts though, and I have filmed a lot of shorts. I just need to, post them. But I've filmed a lot of shorts. It's going to be a short form content videos from now on. And that's where LinkedIn's going. That's where
it is. It is. It's all going to that. It's going that way. I caught you in a lie too. Your LinkedIn profile. I pulled it up because I wanted to see what your link was. But you say Matthew Chapa of the low budget logistics profile and of Crunchyroll, senior transportation manager. You say you still live in Austin, Texas, but you have since moved to Dallas, Texas, which is a few hours north. I think that's a little lie that you.
Well, okay, so
but I guess technically you do still have a residence.
There you go.
In Austin, but that residence is for sale. And if any of you are in the Austin area in the market for a house, contact Matthew or his real estate agent or the real estate agent he's got listed for a house. He is ready to sell. It's on the market. I don't know how much he wants, but he will accept way less than what he has a market for because he needs to sell it because he lives in DFW now, which is much cheaper than Austin.
So much cheaper. Yes, inflation doesn't exist here in the concrete jungle.
It doesn't. Doesn't in Houston either.
Good old Houston. I'm so glad I don't live there anymore. It's so much hotter there than it is here.
It's someone once. I had someone tell me this when we first moved here, and they said, "Oh, Houston's the armpit of Texas," and I kind of feel that now. It just gets so damn hot and humid. And
everyone needs to shut up. Houston's the best. I love Houston the most.
I love Houston too. It's so great.
Dallas sucks. I hate living here. It's the worst. I miss Houston. I have a deep love for that.
I love Houston. It's just very hot.
It's swampy. It's real swampy.
Very swampy. It's a swamp ass here. It's a swamp ass town, Matt. It's a swamp ass town.
Editor.
Oh God, well, guys, if you guys made it this far and you made it to the end of this podcast, thank you guys so much. Make sure you give it a like and review because this was a fun one. We do drop newsletters 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. ThinkFreight.io. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Don't forget to Think Freight with Thomas Burdine of the ThinkFreight Podcast.
Thank you, sir.